Welcome to the Homespa Beauty Podcast. Today I'm speaking with Emily A. Francis, author of The Taste of Joy, Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savouring. This book is so much fun to read. You get absorbed into her journey from page one. All about her adventures in Malta and why she chose to relocate a few years ago with the family for an entirely new life. This book has so much to offer. It's so insightful, and I defy you not to be intrigued, inspired, and addicted to Emily's story. I hope you enjoy our chat, where we cover all of this, plus a lot more. It was so much fun to speak with Emily. Oh, Emily, it's so lovely to talk with you, and I've got the book here, and it's called The Taste of Joy, Mediterranean Wisdom for a Life Worth Savouring. When you start, I would even say on page one, I'm hooked, because I think that a lot of us do share the dream, but you've made it a reality. And without me going too much in depth to it, can you explain basically what the book's about, how it came about?
Well, in 2020, when the world locked down, I became ridiculously, I really pushed my husband hard. Now that he didn't have to go into the office, I wanted out. I wanted to move because there's two things I wanted in my life. Truly, a GMO free country. I wanted healthy foods. And I wanted a country where my children could go to school and not have to learn active shooter drill. That was it. Those were my number two, one and two. And so when the world changed, I kept pushing. Like now that it's all digital, let's go. And he really kind of laid the law. Like he can't. He has to go wherever his boss is. At the same time that I'm pushing this, his boss is on a cruise with his wife. And they got sidetracked over to Malta. And she gets off the cruise ship and she looks around and she goes, "I could live here." And he called the prime minister, got a new contract, and my husband looked at me and goes, "Want to move to Malta?"
That's
And
amazing.
honestly, it was a dream because
Uh-huh.
we he let us bring all four animals. We had three dogs and a cat, two children. We'd never visited because of COVID. You just had to decide, are you going to
Mhm.
do this or not? And so I had to give up my bodywork practice because I don't have a work visa here, which I have to tell you is one of the most liberating tickets in the world is to work without asking to negotiate your worth in dollar figures.
Yeah.
It is incredible. So I contacted everybody here, all the newspapers, all the magazines. Nobody gave me the time of day. And then this young editor at Oh My Malta wrote me back and she said, "To be honest, I'd kill to have you work with us, but full disclosure, can't afford you." And I said, "Well, I'm willing to work in trade for publicity." And she was like, "Can we talk on the phone?" By the end of the conversation, we had set up an interview on local Maltese potatoes. And the reason that I wanted potatoes is because in the American market, a standard US potato goes through 5 rounds of bleaching before it ever makes it onto your plate. And so here is Malta is the first country in the EU to ban GMOs. So I wanted to see what potatoes were like, and I've never seen them in the actual dirt. So I wanted to dig them out and really learn. And I ended up finding a farmer who grows the potatoes for Air Malta, and he was the coolest dude. He's like so charming. And he said, I called him up, "Can I interview you? We're going to come with a camera crew, this whole deal." And he said, "Now don't forget, I am Maltese, which means if you get lost any place on the island, you just call me. I will come to pick you up." And so off we went, and I fell totally in love with him and the idea of food. And my young editor turned around and she said, "You're doing all the food. That's it. This is yours." And so for the last 2+ years, I have spent every month of my life tracking down farmers, begging them to let us come to their homes with a camera crew and interview them. And it has changed my life in ways that I never, ever could have expected. And that is how I wrote a book.
And do you know, it really comes through in the book. And it's funny when you said potatoes, I thought there's a bit in the book where you say that you won't buy potatoes now unless you can see the Maltese cross on them.
Absolutely.
So that just, I take it then they are next level and you really do understand when you've compared. Is it just a whole different zone?
Totally different. They're totally different. Honestly, the soil in Malta, every farmer talks about this. The soil in Malta is extremely healthy and it has a lot of limestone in it, so it's super alkaline, and it's very rocky, very dark, and it's very rocky, but it produces fantastic food. And the potatoes, it looks like he cleans them and puts them back underground, and it's all fake. They're that clean. So you pull these potatoes, you dig, and these potatoes pop up, and they're like flawless. And any that aren't like really beautiful, he puts in a little basket and calls the local nuns, and they come to pick it up and they bring it to the children that are in foster care.
Oh,
Like
so
this country doesn't leave, and especially farmers, they don't
yeah.
leave anything to waste. Nothing wasted.
And you must have such an interesting perspective because coming from the USA, a lot of us, I think the world's changed maybe in the last 10 or 15 years, but I think USA and UK are quite similar. You've got
Yeah.
that split between people who have a terrible lifestyle and that other half that have, they're really hyper focused on eating the best food, having the healthiest lifestyle. So did you feel that Malta was the perfect place to actually go and you didn't have to worry about where the split lies? Because it appears as if they've just got the healthy balance.
You know, the coolest thing to me was the first time because we had to come here and go into a 14-day quarantine. So we
Mm,
didn't get to see anything. Our boss would bring us food and drop it off at the door. The government would knock and make sure we were home and not leaving. I mean, it was like the Gestapo. I mean, it was a little scary. And
mm.
so they kept telling us about the grocery stores here. But until we walked in, you can't imagine. But in the United States, every produce, every live vegetable or fruit has two different places you can purchase in the same one store. So you have your non-organic produce, and then you have your side of the store that has your organic produce. So if you're going to go pick out an apple and you pick out an organic apple, it'll cost 3 times as much as the other apple on the other side of the store. But here in Malta, it's all one apple. It's one rack. It's not here's your organic, here's this. It's all organic. So you can buy your apple or you can buy your cauliflower, and they sell like at the store here, they sell purple cauliflower, orange cauliflower, white cauliflower, and broccoli all chopped up and put together in one package so that you don't have to buy three different heads of vegetables.
That's
It's
genius.
just really, I feel like because it's such a small island, and if anything were to happen and it shuts in, we have to know how to fend for ourselves over here. And so
Yeah.
the farmers, they're everything. They're everything to this island. And getting to meet them, these people that I've been interviewing have been farming in their generational family for over hundreds of years. And even the potato farmer that I met is a grandpa now, but on the same exact field is where he learned to harvest his first potato at 13. These people live in the same homes and they learn from their parents and they pass it down to their children and their grandchildren. So the wisdom here, the history that they keep, and the perspective that they have is it's very, very pure. And to let
Yeah.
these people share that with me, because as an American, every time I call, they'll go, "No, I don't want," and like all but hang up. And you're like, "Okay, okay, how do I start this?" So I had to start it in person, like a stalker. I'd have to show up. You know, I'm American. I write this magazine article. I really want to showcase you. The first interview I wanted to do was strawberries. I had just eaten these strawberries. I followed the farmer in before I knew I was going to get hired to do this. And they were the best strawberries of my life. So when we talked about the interview, I went back to this place and I asked the lady that worked there, "Can I have the farmer's number?" She said, "No, no, why you want? That's my brother. No." And I was like, "But it's your brother? Can I talk to him? I want to highlight this was the best strawberries of my life." "No, no, you cannot. We don't want." And I'm like, and she goes, "Here's what you do. You go to the farming town, Mjar. You stand in front of the church. You go find a farmer. That's what you do." And I'm like, I'm going to go find a farmer. I'm going to go stand in front of the church. But it turns out that in that farming town, right in front of the church, it says the farmer's coffee shop. And all the farmers go to this coffee shop. So really you can. But to get these interviews have been hard earned, and it's taken people to vouch for me and call the next farmer and the next. And over the last 2+ years now, I just pick up the phone and go, "Hey, Tony, who do you know?" And then they call and tell me. And now I have started really moving with it. But it was not easy.
I think that says a lot about you. You really have tried to integrate. I think
Yes.
one of the things, and I am completely generalizing here, but there's quite a lot of UK expats and they'll go over to Spain, but they'll
Yes.
stay in the English UK part and they won't really learn the language. They'll go to the restaurants that are run by other expats and it's very much your little community within Spain, but it's very UK based, it's very English.
Yes.
And
You're
you
not
only
becoming Spanish.
yeah, and you just venture out when you need to, and then you venture back. But it seems as if you've made sure that you are in it 100%.
I really am. It's honestly this opportunity. It's funny because the magazine sometimes underestimates what they've given me because they still feel so bad that they can't pay me.
Mhm,
So to them, it's like, oh, we don't really do much for you. You're the one doing all this for us. And I keep telling them, like, this has been the greatest experience of my life. And to leave money out of the conversation feels really pure, energetically speaking.
mhm.
It feels really clean. It feels really pure. And the conversations that I get to have, it is funny because they'll want to do short interviews. The magazine will want to do short interviews, but the farmers want to sit down and tell you all about themselves. And so we'll interview quickly, and then I'll come back over with my family and meet them and sit down and hear their stories in more detail because I want to know everything that they want to share with me. And the stories are some are sad, some are hilarious, some are just whimsical. One of the farmers, we went back to their house because my husband, he's like, there she is living my best life in Malta while I'm at work every day. And it's true because he loves food even more than I do. And I went and pressed olives into olive oil and I had this dream come true day. And he was like, I'm so proud of you and I'm so excited. And I'm trying so hard not to be jealous because this is amazing. And so I bring him back with my kids and farmers. And one of the farmers took us out for the whole day. And he lives in this, he grows food in this place with huge caves. And it used to be where the Cavaliers would bring their prisoners. And so he let us hike. We hiked for hours up into this cave, and then you could see half of the island from the top of the cave. The experiences that I've had, they are not normal. Like
Sounds
somebody else
great.
wouldn't move here and get this. This is a very finite experience that's really been revealed to me. And I think they know how much I value them and their life and their family and their stories and that I want to learn and I'm really fascinated with this whole different way of life because as an American you I grew up very privileged and rather ignorant, just to be honest, rather ignorant to the rest of the world. And now that I'm here, I want to learn anything anybody's willing to share with me. Plus, as a writer, I'm just curious. I want to know,
Yeah.
you know?
Do you know, I think what you're saying could apply to so many of us. I think a lot of us, especially in our countries, we're told that our countries are like, we lead this and we lead that. So you do sort of have this thing where you're like, well, if a UK person or a US person goes here, we don't need to do this, this, or this because they
Exactly.
cater to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true.
Uh-huh.
It's
But
true.
is that why the book was, it feels to me as if it was easy to write. When I'm reading it, it feels as if you are speaking to me. It almost feels as if you could do this twice again over, as if there's more information. It just feels as if there's so much in it
There's
that
so
just
much.
it flows. And so many, I mean, it's not, as you say, it's not a recipe book, but there's recipes in it. Even just to point out some of the salad suggestions, they're so simple, but your mouth's watering when you're reading it. And it makes you realize again, maybe we overcomplicate things too much. How fancy can we make something here? How many ingredients can we put into it? Oh,
True.
it's got to be special. I better add in five more things. But you're reading it, you think, actually, that sounds lovely. And it might only have like
It's really good. 5
five
ingredients or
ingredients. Yeah.
less. It's funny too because my friend she's an incredible cook. She makes unbelievable foods. And I'm a simple cook. And she said, "How are you getting all this work with food?" I even had a German television producer come over and do a television interview for German Food Network
Yeah.
on me in Malta and the Pisiti, and they're calling me a food writer all of a sudden. And she's like, "You better learn your recipes. You better learn how to cook." And I said, "No, I don't. That's not what I'm doing in food. I'm interviewing the farmers. I'm learning how these foods are grown and harvested. That's their job, is to tell me what kind of recipes they do with it. I'm not here to go tell people how to make something. I don't know better. I do know how to cook, but I don't know how to cook simply. And so I'm changing the way that I approach food because of these people. So as a kind of a blank slate, that's the way I want to go. I shouldn't need to be a chef. It's not the angle. And I do have more to write. I'm hoping to write the memoir, to be honest, because
Yeah.
there's so much to my story, and it is, I mean, it was not easy. I mean, what I've been able to pull off is such
Mhm.
an honor. It's a dream, though. I mean, I'm really living a life now that is what fairy tales are made of. I mean, I walk outside every day, really, every morning and say, "Thank you, God, for my new life. Please let me get to keep it." Because it is such a dream that I don't want to let that go. And Malta's hard. It's hard living, and there's some tough parts of it that I would never have put in a book like this,
Mhm.
but I would love to tell some of the other sides of it because it's it's all of the above.
Mhm.
But it's just, what do you want? What is the life you want to create? Because I wanted a new life, and
Yeah.
I really ran after it. And even to the point where there's nothing about this in the book. I took it out, but we moved here and I had children. And I had no idea what to do because I wasn't driving on this side of the road. I didn't even know where our new school was. I knew nothing. Because of COVID, we weren't allowed to meet the teachers or tour the
Right.
school or anything. And so I called the government to get them on the school bus, and they actually come with chaperones to make sure the kids are buckled and nobody's bullying. And when I heard that, I said to my husband, "Do you think they'd let me be a chaperone?" He was like, "You are so crazy. No, they are not going to let you on the bus." But then I went to sign them up, and they're like, "Oh, I see that your van doesn't have supervision this year." And I was like, "Can I do it?" And the teacher was like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yes." So I rode the morning van from day one till the last day of school for an entire year. And nobody knew I was a parent except for the kids on the van. So I would drop off the kids at school and then go wait across the street with the other little old ladies that are retired that do this job. And I could watch everything because no one knew this fly on the wall
Yeah.
paid tuition and had 2 kids inside, and it was the coolest thing ever, because I also got to learn that we're at the best school I could have begged and pleaded and prayed a million times over for, and the way that the staff and teachers treat these children, you don't see that. You don't see that in America, because in America, they're still always afraid that you're gonna take it the wrong way or sue them, and
Yeah.
here, the children are greeted with hugs and kisses on the head, and there's a Maltese word, "pupa," which means doll, and you hear it everywhere. "Good morning, pupa. Oh,
Mhm.
pupa. Oh, honey me," like honey. They do pet names. They're very kind, and it's not just to the kids they love, it's to all of them, and the kids feel loved. So I am living a dream, no doubt about it, and I hoped with this particular book to honor my farmers that made it that way.
It really comes across. And just you saying that now, it makes you think, wow, why can't everywhere be more like that? Does anyone want to pick your brains about your experiences where you came from, or do you feel as if they know that they've got it sussed?
No, they really are curious about the American way of life, and to them, they feel like America is the best. So, like, how could I live here and be happy? How, because you don't have an Amazon here. You don't have a Target, you don't have a Walmart, you don't have drugstores. When we got the school supply list, I was like, what do I do? Where do I go? Like, and the teacher's like, "I want 30 bottle tops so you can practice counting." And I'm like, 30 bottle tops by tomorrow? Who does that? But now in Malta, I collect every one of these bottle tops because they're bad for the sea. Now I understand. So we have
Mhm.
bags upon bags, and we drop them off at the aquarium to dispose of them safely. But at
Mhm.
the time, you're new. So people are curious, but I love America. I will always be proud that I come from America, but I was really, really ready to raise my family in a safer place, both internally in what they ingest and externally what they're taking in. And the kids here are not on video games as much. They still do them,
Mhm.
but you don't have a lot of the real violence. And the children here are very international, and they're very much more accepting of us being from another country. I think we're the only Americans at our school. We go to a British school. But
Oh,
our best friends are from Brazil and from Greece and from Italy and some local Maltese and it's in Russia. It's incredible what my kids are getting to grow up around because while I'm having the time of my life and they're at school, they're also having the time of their life. And that you can't we didn't do that in the United States. And in the
mhm.
United States, you're really taught about the United States. You're not really taught world history and world geography. You're taught US history, US geography. So I'm really dense over here, but I own it and say, well, where is that? What country is that in? How far
Yeah.
away is that? What does that look like? We're very close to Africa, and I don't know anything about Africa. Really nothing except for that I think lions still walk around and people are, I have this really ridiculous. My husband was just in Ghana last week and he said, you have this ridiculous view in your head of Africa. And he's like, I feel like I know what you're seeing in your mind, but that's not where I'm going.
But
It's a metropolis.
what's lovely about your attitude is you are asking all the questions. I think in today's world, quite often we're used to people saying, this is my thought process, this is my theory, you cannot shift me. But you're
Yes.
saying, teach me, I
Teach
want
me.
to learn. It's
Teach
fabulous.
we were in the kitchen one day. We have these parties every Sunday in the summer because our house is built to host parties. So it's got this huge pool in the back and this big deck. The landlords, their parents built it to throw parties. And so this is the party house. And my friend from Brazil, she's Korean, and she brought over ingredients because everybody brings a side dish, and she was going to make a Greek salad. But then, as she's chopping and putting it in, our Greek friend was like, "Oh no, no, no lemon and feta in the same bowl, no lemon and feta." And she's like, "What? Okay, do it." And so the Greek woman took over. She's chopping the cucumbers and chopping the lettuce and the tomatoes. No lemon, no feta. No tomato, no feta. So too much acid, no feta. And so who's heard that? Because I still read Greek recipes online all the time that are lemon and feta. Do the
Yeah,
lemon and the olive oil and the feta and the tomatoes, but the real Greek people are not having that. They are not. And
that's,
so there's some really interesting food rules and all
yeah,
of us are really interested. Our other friend is from Turkey and she's a chef. And so when she comes to the kitchen, we're like, please show us your ways. And it's cool. The spices too. I mean, there's so many spices that people use that I've never heard of in the
mhm,
United States. And I would have fancied myself a cook, not
yeah,
a chef, but a
mhm,
decent cook. And then you come here and everything's made, you don't see butter so much. I mean, butter's everywhere, but they don't cook with it. They cook with olive oil.
mhm.
Olive oil is to cook and to finish. And it's different, and it took me a while to appreciate the flavors because I'm so used to things being hyper flavored and hyper colored and just super like even we still watch American TV. And the other day I was laying in bed watching the news and the commercials, and the news and 2 commercials back to back all use the word more. In 2023, we're gonna have more, bigger, more, bigger. Over here, it's not about more. It's not about bigger. It's there's a constant thing that I go, "Do I really need this? If I don't, I'm not gonna buy it." Whereas in America, I was like an Amazon addict. I could
Mhm.
not wait every day for Amazon Prime to deliver to my house.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, "We don't really have the space. Do we really need this? Is this something I will want?" And so I don't do a lot of the shopping the way I used to, and food shopping even because everything's without so many preservatives. So everything goes bad in about 3 days. So you have
You've
to
got to.
shop 2 to 3 times a week. Whereas in the States, we would shop one day for 7 days ahead because we would go to Costco and buy the bulk of, tons of stuff. It's a different way of life, but you can either come in and be your way is the only way, or you can come in, step down, and learn the ways of people that have been living on this island for 7,000 years.
Yeah. It's what you're saying. It's funny because I was listening to the radio last week and there was just a woman had phoned in and they were just talking away. And she said, oh, that's my delivery at the door. And the presenter said, oh, what have you had delivered? And she said, chocolate. And she said, oh, like special chocolate, she went, no, just one bar. And she said, you've had a bar of chocolate delivered. And she said, yeah, it's my little treat to myself. So we live in an age where you've got people, like you say, everything's fresh and everything's thought through. What am I putting into my body? And then over here, we've got people that have one bar of chocolate delivered to the door because they felt like it.
because they felt like it.
Yeah.
I mean, my friend, the same one, the Brazilian, she said, you know why you love it so much over here? Because she loves it too for the same reason. And I said, why? And she goes, because we're living in the 80s. She's like,
Yeah.
we now live in the 80s. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. And I love it because the 80s were the best.
Yes, I
And
agree.
even like they don't have voicemail on their phones here. You cannot call and leave a message. So you have to call back or WhatsApp or email or show up. And the island's so small, it takes
Mhm.
40 minutes north to south, the whole length of the island.
And that's
So
it.
if I need to do something, and that's the other thing, I can get these people that I'm trying to get an interview with because I'm going to go show up. I'm not going to call them because the
Yeah.
language barrier is hard, really hard
Yeah.
on the phone.
So
And
no
so I
messing.
show up and go, this is what the magazine looks like. This is what I want to do. Your friend gave me your number. We want to interview. And then it becomes like a keepsake for their family
Uh-huh.
because it's a really well done video. I'm certainly not there to argue. I'm there to say, tell me anything you want to share from your family to ours. And so they
Yeah.
become really proud of what we're putting out on their behalf.
Well,
And, that's cool.
I absolutely love as well. So what you just said about the 80s, you've gave your children the best gift in the world. You've gave them an 80s childhood. So
It's
whatever
true.
they get from now on, you've done it. You've topped it already. That's it. You can't go any higher.
I do.
I
I feel like they are having the best life,
Oh, I
really.
love it. Honestly, you make it sound so enticing and just warm. Like you still make it like it's realistic. Like the work's got to be done. But I cannot believe that we're running out of time. There's two things that I really want to cover.
Okay, please.
Your radio show. So I listened to the latest episodes, but I also had a look at the other episodes. It's really far reaching within health and wellness. So do you also feel that that radio show is so important to the new life that you've got because it all seems to connect in so well?
It does, but I haven't done a good job connecting into this life from that show. I haven't had anybody from Malta call in
Right.
because the show is out of California. And so it's hard for me to ask anybody local to call and do this unless they're sitting here.
Yeah.
Um, But, I made it's called All About Healing because I didn't wanna limit,
Yeah.
and my background for the last 20 plus years is on healing, and I don't mention it whatsoever in this book, but I do mention it in my other healing books, but I helped recover my child out of an autism spectrum diagnosis. So
Wow.
when I talk about the GMO foods and the things, it really mattered in our home to have healthy foods, and the same doctor that diagnosed her removed the diagnosis less than 2 years later from the alternative therapies that I found. And
Wow.
I was already in that field, but I didn't do the right things at the beginning, but I did incredible things to get her through and out. So she has no therapies now. I had her retested last year
Yeah.
with a new doctor here, not telling them her history. They didn't pick up a single bit of autism spectrum. Nothing.
That
Now,
is amazing.
I can spot some still, but she doesn't qualify on the spectrum anymore. So my life, not only was I in body work and in body healing and helping other people, but I got tasked with, okay, we're going to figure out how her brain can reorganize itself. And we're going to do everything in my physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional powers
Yeah.
to make that happen. And to me, that was 2 years of me walking in line with God and in almost like walking meditation all day, every day of telling
Yeah.
me where to go. And that's when I opened. It wasn't just here with these farmers, it was God, tell me what to do. And I will not argue. So, any healer, anything, any opportunity, I went. That's how I opened. So the show All About Healing still continues in that because I think there are ways to heal that most people are never taught because it is not covered by insurance and it is not
Mhm.
the mainstream. And we need to take off the blinders and understand that healing occurs all over the world in many, many different ways and will still get you to the same end zone. And so that's why I still host that show. It's going into year 5. March will be 5 years. And it
Amazing.
means the world to me to bring in as many ideas behind healing so that parents that have children that were my child didn't speak until she was more than 4 years old. There was a lot of stuff that we had to do, and I had to find my way, and
Yeah.
it was not trivial. And so this show reflects what we've been through and what I know. That's why coming here was so different because I'm not in practice. And so even though I still get parents emailing me from around the world and I still try to help them pair up with the right therapists for them, craniosacral therapy is the big thing. Um, But other than that, it's weird to start a whole new life when when I was so inundated with that
Yeah.
life before. But I had to, and I wanted to, because my children's safety and health, there is nothing more important to me, and that's what I needed.
Oh, Emily, that is a fabulous, fabulous place to finish. I mean, the book is inspiring, but I would say just from that little hint that you gave of what the show's about, we all have to check that out. What you've done, wow. That's it's not often that I'm actually lost for words, but when you said what you were able to do, I'm bowing down to you right now. That is
Oh, thank
amazing.
you, thank you.
Oh, well, it's been such a pleasure talking to you. Could you give us your website, your social media handles, so that if anyone wants to check you out, and I know that the book is on the website, so if anyone wants to buy the book, they can just go straight on?
Yes.
Yeah,
If you go to mymaltalife.com, you can go to all my social media stuff, but mymaltalife.com. And I'm Emily A. Francis, A like Apple. So if you even Google that, you'll find me. And honestly, if somebody heard this and wanted to ask me something not on this subject, but on healing, don't be afraid to email and reach out, and I will help you find your way.
that's amazing. Emily, it's been such a pleasure. And I
Thank you.
genuinely mean it, this book. I have to visit Malta. Have to.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.